Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. I am Daryl Grove and I'm joined by a man who has 100 UEFA Champions League goals. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Hello. Usually it's like somewhat of like a truth in there. This one's just a straight up lie.
Did you get any Virginia Champions League goals in your youth soccer playing days?
I did, since I played in the Virginia Champions League. That counts, right? Yeah. I don't know if I scored 100, but yeah, one goal counts. Hooray! I hadn't thought about it like that. Champions League goal scorer right here.
So we are here to review Real Madrid's Champions League quarterfinal second leg and first leg and second leg victory over Bayern Munich. Final score on the night was, I believe, 4-2. Definitely enough to put Real Madrid through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it's a tale of like two games, really, as strange as that sounds, because we had a conversation maybe a couple weeks ago about how things can be two things. And I think this game is a very good example of that. That I think a lot of players had very good moments and a lot of players had very bad moments.
Isn't that part of why the game was so entertaining, though? Because what I saw here is like, you know, two of the best teams in the world, right? Like maybe if you remove Barcelona from the conversation, it's easily the best two teams in the world with the most star-studded lineups and the best, most technical, competitive players. And then when you put them up against each other, it's almost like a stress test for a high-end car. You're like pushing it to its limits. You know what I mean? So that maybe that's why you saw the very best and the very worst of some players.
I think so, because like there's the joke that we both love from the Mitchell and Webb sketch about football, and it's like the Titans of Ipswich play host to the Giants of Macclesfield or whatever, making them both seem normal sized. And it felt like that, where because these two teams are so good and have so many good players at their disposal, there were those moments where I think everybody was just so up for it and so aware of the moment that you would have like, wait, what was that pass? Wait, what is he trying to do there? Why did he almost just score an own goal twice? Like there was just a lot of like semi-calamitous moments, but then punctuated by incredible moments of skill and ability that sort of remind you that these are the best players in the world.
Absolutely. And it was thrilling, right? I mean, I watched this on my own. So everybody knows we're not recording in studio today. We are in separate locations. So I watched this, really just sat in front of the TV with my dog and was thrilled by this.
Yeah. Was your dog also?
No, doesn't understand soccer.
He's not that dog that follows the kick of the ball off of the screen.
No, plus he's an Atletico fan, so he kept asking me to change it to Fox Sports 2.
Ah, the hipster dog. Yeah, I mean, it really was. I think it always felt like there were going to be goals, right? And it just took a little while for those goals to start occurring. So I think that first half, it felt like, okay, something is definitely going to happen, be it red cards or goals or some combination of the two, and that's pretty much exactly what happened in that second half.
Before we get into goals, can we talk tactics?
Sure.
I have a theory of why this game was so exciting, and it's that essentially Bayern were just going for it and sending everybody forward, and Real Madrid were quite happily counter-attacking, but then Bayern were doing some heroic defending, looking at you, Mats Hummels, and then going back the other way, and that's how this game got really stretched and turned into this end-to-end thing that I'm sure Fox Sports were very happy that they televised.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's absolutely correct, and I think that is punctuated by at least the commentator I had, because I was watching on Fox Sports Go or Fox Soccer to Go. Fox Soccer to Go. That's the one.
I see.
And he, I think, the color commentator spent the first 20 minutes or so like declaring that Madrid were playing a diamond and then sort of adjusting that on the fly as it was like, well, I think they're nominally a diamond. So nominally a diamond.
Who did you have? Because I had John Strong, I believe, and Brad Friedel.
That is not who I had.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, you do get a different feed on the Fox Soccer to Go, and it's some sort of international feed, I think.
That would explain, because, I was texting you, like, are they playing a diamond? And that's because my commentator was insistent that they were, because he was insisting that Isco was dropping behind Cristiano and Benzema, and then you had, like, the other midfield three as the other parts of that diamond.
Well, actually, I did see that. I saw Casemiro, because you texted me this, right? And I had a good look at it for the rest of the game, and I did see Casemiro as, like, the defensive midfielder on the diamond, and I did see Modric and Kroos as the two central midfielders, and then Isco at the tip, but then Isco was the wild card, to quote Charlie Kelly.
Yeah.
Isco would move around and he would like cause overloads. Like say if Isco just drifted to the left, then suddenly they'd have Marcelo, Ronaldo and Isco attacking down the left. If he went to the right, you'd have Carvajal and Benzema and Isco down there. So there's always like an overload caused by Isco's movement.
Yeah. Actually, to continue your wild card analogy one step further, it was very Charlie Kelly, because at times, like, wild cards are theoretically good in terms of they present new scenarios that you wouldn't otherwise have expected. But frequently with Charlie Kelly being the wild card, it turns into problems. And it did seem like that as well, because sometimes Isco would like drop in on the left and be kind of a fourth midfielder, but you'd still have everyone else tucked inside. And that allowed Bayern Munich so much space down that left wing that then you had Isco come across to try to plug that hole. And so it felt like he was kind of moved around a little bit based on whatever Bayern were trying to do. Yeah. But I still then saw him as a front three as well. So it just felt like he was kind of all over the place, but intentionally as opposed to due to like poor play.
And I think you picked up on an important thing there is Bayern going down the wings. I think part of the diamond was Real Madrid saying, you're not coming through the middle, you're welcome to try it down the wings. And then Bayern had a really good go at it, right? Especially like Alaba and Ribéry down the left and Lahm and Robben down the right. But I don't think it was quite enough space for them to do too much with. So I think Real Madrid sort of gambled on giving them the wings and holding the middle.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I do think that maybe if you have a completely fit Bayern Munich team with 11 players, maybe they get a few more goals. But you could just see those moments where they were lacking a little bit of sharpness or a little bit of that killer instinct. The one that comes to mind, without like having too many specifics off the top of my head, because with Fox Soccer to go, you don't get times, so that makes tracking things a little bit difficult. There was one where like in the second half, Robben cuts inside as he is wont to do, and then he does like a little chipped pass over the top that Lewandowski has to turn and kind of chest down.
Yeah.
And I think he gets caught in sort of, I could try to turn and volley this. I could have taken it in stride and tried to volley it. I could have dropped it off. And I think he doesn't really know what to do. And in that half second of hesitation, Real are able to correct a little bit so that he can't get off a clean play. And I feel like if Bayern maybe didn't have some of the injuries they had and didn't have some of the frustration they had in trying to play from outside to inside, I think maybe the result is a little bit different on the day.
Or maybe if they had 11 men for the 90 minutes of both games.
That also...
Or the 120 minutes of this one.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, like, it's tough to break this game down because there are moments, like the one I think I talked to you about before we started recording was Mats Hummels had a sequence where he had this amazing flicked-on header that I could never, ever do. It's like off of a punt or a goal kick, and it's about maybe 30 yards from his own goal, and he does a perfect back-of-the-head flick into the arms of Manuel Neuer, who catches it. Like
I remember this. I saw that, and I was also impressed because, I mean, as we've talked about before, I'm a centre-back like my whole life, and that is like a move that's like peak A+ centre-back move, because it means you're confident enough to do it. It means you're aware enough that you look around and make sure there's no striker there. And it just looks like that supreme level when you do it. Yeah, so that was very impressive from Mats Hummels.
But then, literally a minute later, maybe 2 minutes later, he tries to clear the ball and clears it off of Benzema, and it almost goes in. Like he almost has that type of not own goal, but he almost essentially concedes that goal. And that's within the span of 2 minutes. And it felt like that happened consistently in this game. And so it makes it hard to really dissect the game from that standpoint. Yeah. And then on top of that, I don't want to take away anything from Real because it was a comprehensive performance, I would say, even though they did go down 2-1 and it forced extra time, extra time, overtime, whatever you want to go with. But by the same token,
extra time, it's not basketball.
You can't deny that I'm like the Vidal yellow card, at least the yellow card he did get, the second yellow was a little bit harsh. You could argue that Casemiro should have gotten a second yellow. Yeah. You could argue that two of Ronaldo's goals were offside.
You could there's lots of things, absolutely.
Yes. So all of those moments again make it kind of difficult to have a kind of consistent narrative for this game.
So instead, shall we talk about the goals?
Sure.
Okay. So maybe let's talk about not Robben's winning the penalty kick that Lewandowski scored. I mean, that was kind of just like Robben putting pressure and pressure. Did you notice he was on the? I'm accidentally talking about it now. Did you notice he was on the left-hand side instead of the right when he got that dribbled when he was taken down in the box? That was because he'd been pressing up on Real Madrid as they were clearing the ball and was still over that side to receive it off of Lewandowski. Okay, Lewandowski steps up, scores the penalty kick. There you could see Bayern Munich's game plan. Right, we're going to go at it. We're going to press them. We're going to go for you. Then up steps Cristiano Ronaldo. And I want to say, despite all the claims that he's offside, which we'll talk about later, this really was his game, right? You can't argue with this being Ronaldo's night. Hat-trick at the Bernabeu, 100 Champions League goals, starting with this header to equalise it on the night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a great header, don't get me wrong. And I know we want to talk about the specifics, but I really, before this goal happens, you have Karim Benzema substituted off.
Yeah.
And I have in my notes, like, that is Zinedine Zidane substituting a player who looked better on the night because of the other player's reputation. Because I firmly felt like Ronaldo should have been substituted. I felt like he was kind of off his game. He got dispossessed pretty easily. I think he made some poor decisions in the first half. I think Madrid could have easily been up 1-0, but he chose to go at goal instead of square the ball to Benzema, and then he shot.
So I remember that wasn't a great moment for Ronaldo, was it?
No, and so then when he suddenly gets a hat trick, that's what is so kind of not frustrating but difficult about this game, is that it's a hat trick. He has over 100 Champions League goals. It's going to be remembered for that, as well as the elimination of Bayern Munich and maybe the unfair red card to Arturo Vidal. But I would say he didn't have a great game, even though he gets a hat trick.
Oh, you'd say that even by the end of the game? Because
it's weird. I know it's weird to say. It's weird to say, but I think that's kind of how I feel.
Isn't this more about like Bayern Munich being the attackers the whole time? Like they were the ones who knock, they think, the whole through the whole game. But then Real are just playing on the counter, so therefore you don't get to see Ronaldo sort of with that much of the ball, except for the moments when they counter.
I mean, maybe, but let me first say this. I have no vested interest in either Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. Like, I really don't care about either one that much.
No, it's a silly debate, right? We can watch both and enjoy both.
I mean to say that, like, I really don't think I have any bias here. I don't really have any particular dislike for Cristiano Ronaldo. Yeah. That said, I think if you look at the way Antoine Griezmann plays for Atletico Madrid and the way he is very ruthless and efficient on the counterattack, but also I think does a lot of stuff to alleviate pressure when his team is sitting back. I don't feel like Cristiano Ronaldo did that for Madrid, and maybe that's not necessarily his role, but when they're playing counterattack and sitting back, I do think that is his responsibility. And there were times when he just coughs the ball up cheaply or gets dispossessed at midfield when he really should not have, that I think caused problems for Real. Now, he does obviously get those 3 goals, so you have to mention that again.
So doesn't this sort of like go into the theory of just star players are going to be star players then? Because maybe you're right. Maybe Ronaldo was the one that deserved to be subbed off instead of Benzema when Zidane did that. But maybe there is that. Maybe that like star power thing is a real thing, and he just turns up in the big games and scores hat tricks.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe all our models of analysis should be thrown out the window, and we should just pick the most famous players. That definitely worked really well for England in the 2000s.
Yeah. What could go wrong? Is this also where I make a catty comment about how he does that when assisted by the assistant referee and Marcelo? Can I do that there?
Before we do that, I want to give credit to Casemiro on that first goal.
Yes.
Because he rides that not great Thomas Muller tackle, right? That maybe could have been a foul.
Yeah, it definitely would have been. I think the referee had the whistle in his mouth.
Right.
He was like, he's playing on for some reason. Oh, that's why.
And then Casemiro manages, bear in mind, he's the defensive midfielder, right? So he's not really supposed to be dribbling through Bayern's midfield and crossing the ball. But he kind of manages to cross for Ronaldo from a very, like not a wide angle. He's like central in the field almost and still manages to put a cross in. I don't quite know how he did that.
I mean, just desire, tenacity, trying to make amends for maybe conceding a penalty that he shouldn't have conceded. All of those are viable answers, I would say.
And actually, there's a great example of guys having like simultaneously great nights and bad nights, right? He gives away the penalty and then he sets up the equalizer.
Yeah, I mean, he really could have been sent off twice because he does make contact in the box for that penalty, and then later on in the game makes contact again. So I think he's lucky to be on the pitch at the end of the game, but you can't fault him for that ball because it is, as you said, it's riding a challenge, it's staying on his feet, like really actively having to work to stay on his feet, and then picking out that spot and playing that ball. It deserves praise for sure.
Okay, so then should we quickly, before we get to the basically the offside goals, which is I know what people want to hear about, can we talk about the Sergio Ramos own goal? My only question for you is, what on earth happened?
I think maybe it's a Muller hello to start.
Oh, okay.
Muller just pops up there because it's a ball in, and this is the ball that I think Bayern had been trying. This is the one I mentioned before where it's like that kind of chipped in over the top to see what the strikers can do.
Yeah, it's Mats Hummels. Mats Hummels sent it in. Yeah.
And in this situation, it's Thomas Muller who chests it down. I think he's aiming for Robert Lewandowski.
So do I.
And maybe it is Real, like, the what's the old saying? It's like the time when you're most likely to concede is right after you score a goal.
Right.
I think the most dangerous lead is 2-0. That's nonsense. But whatever. And in this situation, maybe they're just a little bit switched off. They're still in celebration mode. And so suddenly there's a ball in the box. Robert Lewandowski is running on towards it. So if you're one of those two center backs, maybe you're a little bit like, oh, I got to do something. I got to make something happen. And instead of making something happen in a good way, you make something that you send your opponent up 2-1.
Am I right in thinking they both get a touch on it? Doesn't Nacho intercept it but send it towards Ramos and then Ramos finishes it off?
Oh, I'm not sure. I'm inclined to give Sergio Ramos 100% of the credit on that.
I think Nacho gets the own assist.
And I think it was
which is a thing I've just invented.
Sure. I think Mark Bujarski on Twitter, I think it was Mark, apologies if it was not, tweeted something along the lines of, I mean, they say Ramos always scores clutch goals.
I texted you the same thing.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
Well, he beat you to it, so I gave him credit.
Well, he did it publicly, right? So yeah,
exactly.
Oh, congrats to Mark on the coaching job. He said that he got a coaching job. Yeah,
he did.
Side note. I'm assuming it wasn't Real Madrid or Bayern Munich.
I don't think so.
All right, and okay, so it looks like we're doing this chronologically. Yeah. Now we have to talk Vidal red card.
Yeah.
So what I saw on my feed, actually, John Strong, I think it was John Strong, kind of apologised and kind of threw the match director under the bus for not catching this live. He blamed the match director for it not being live. But when I saw the replay, it seemed to me a kind of reckless, but in the end, clean slide tackle where he comes through, takes the ball off of Asensio with the outside of his foot and doesn't touch him at all. It shouldn't even be a foul. It should just be a straight up like, well done, Arturo. That was a good tackle.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think it is Asensio at pace. Vidal comes in, makes that clean tackle. But I think just because it is kind of disrupting that run, there is going to be some contact. Asensio is going to fall over. So I don't think he necessarily dove or sold it or anything like that. I just think from the referee's vantage point from behind the two, it looks like, as you said, Vidal comes in a little bit recklessly, a little bit too aggressively, and then Asensio hits the ground. I think given that Vidal was already on a yellow, that he had already had a couple other harsh tackles, including one on Casemiro to start the second half, I think the referee just thought, past his precedent, it was probably a foul, here's a yellow. But that's not really what he's supposed to be doing, I would say.
Is this kind of maybe a reputation thing? Like Vidal was on that yellow and was still tackling kind of hard, and so the ref just has it in his mind that, this guy is the guy that slides around and causes trouble.
Yeah, I think so. I think it doesn't help that it's right in front of the benches, so you're always going to get that intensified reaction. Yeah. But I think that's what it is in the end. I think it's definitely hard. I mean, there's no I think. It is a very harsh decision by the center official, and it obviously changes the entire game. So I think Arturo Vidal will feel very hard done by, as will Bayern Munich.
Yeah, going into extra time, I really didn't think Bayern had much chance, because when you saw them when they came out for the start of extra time, their legs just looked gone. Poor old Arjen Robben had really run himself into the ground and just kept going and going and going, and there just wasn't much left to give.
I mean, you could see between the end of regulation and the start of extra time, you could see Mats Hummels getting worked out, and then in between the two extra time periods, Mats Hummels was on the ground and had an entire team working on him. It really was just a rapid breakdown.
He was in the garage.
Yeah, and it really felt like there was a chance, because they had all used their substitutions at this point. It felt like there was a chance that even if they had been at full strength, they might have played with 10 men, because Mats Hummels just seemed like he was struggling. You can see that in that final goal that Real score, courtesy of Asensio. It's a great finish from him, and it's really hard work. But both that goal and Ronaldo's hat-trick goal, where Marcelo kind of dribbles through the defense, you can just tell that they are no longer even close to 100%. They're probably not even close to 50% at that point.
Yeah, they're finished, right? Would there be, I think on FIFA, don't you have an energy bar? You can see your players gone down. They would have been...
They're all in red.
Yeah, they're all in the red.
There are flashing red warning signs. I'm sure that's changed since last we played.
What, in 2007?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, shall we talk about so this is essentially Ronaldo's second goal. This is the back-breaking goal, right? This is the one that means that Real Madrid are ahead on the night. They're back ahead on the night with Bayern having 10 men. This is what finishes it all. Okay, first question, was it offside?
Yeah, absolutely.
It absolutely was, right? It's Ramos plays it in, I believe. When you've seen the freeze frame, Ronaldo is ahead of Alaba and ahead of Costa. He is 100% offside.
He is. I think what happens, though, is it is maybe a half second. When that ball is played to the time that he is no longer offside is about a half second. And he's no longer offside in the sense, well, he is offside, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's because Douglas Costa is, I forget who he's tracking, but he drops back.
Yes.
And so I think if you are the assistant referee, and we've heard before that they tend to make that decision based on sound when the ball is kicked versus where the player is.
Oh, so they can look at the players along the line and hear the sound of the pass.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So I'm inclined to think that's what they usually do, but maybe with the stadium as loud as it is, maybe he was just kind of watching that kick and looked back. And if you have that half-second delay, it absolutely looks like Ronaldo is onside because Douglas Costa is tracking his runner, but he definitely isn't. You can see it in that freeze frame.
Yeah.
He's maybe not a yard, maybe a half yard offside.
So my guess is also that there's kind of an optical illusion created by Alaba stepping forward and Costa running back. It becomes very hard to judge. Like you're judging then three objects, right? You're having to watch Alaba, Costa, and Ronaldo instead of just Alaba and Ronaldo. And I honestly, like, assistant referees are only human, and everyone's susceptible to any kind of optical illusion caused by movement in different directions. And I can see why he got this wrong. So I've seen people on Twitter saying Ronaldo was clearly offside, and I would disagree with the clearly, because it's only clear when you've screenshotted it and posted it to Twitter and freeze framed it at the moment the pass came. If you're watching it live and you only get one look at it, it is not clearly offside, right? It's just offside and really hard to spot.
I mean, yes, that is not wrong, but this is also, like, soccer, as we've already established, played at an incredibly high level, and you're supposed to have incredibly, like, high level officials to match that skill level. And I just think maybe you and I wouldn't be able to get that right, but I think the assistant referee definitely should have.
So we needed the Ronaldo of assistant referees to to be on that sideline.
Yeah, and even for Ronaldo's hat trick goal in the 109th minute, if you watch that, if you see that still, where it does look like maybe, and this one I think is far more difficult. Yeah. It does look like maybe he's a half step offside when Marcelo squares that ball for the tap in.
He's definitely offside. Yeah. Again, not clearly offside, right? It's kind of hard to judge.
But if you look at where the AR is in that shot, and the AR is a good 5 to 10 yards behind the play. So It almost looks as though he was like, oh, Marcelo's dribbling into 3 different defenders. He's going to get stopped. Oh, he didn't get stopped. Uh-oh. And then he had to pick up his run again. So even there, like, the referees are kind of out of position to make what needs to be a crucial call.
Here's what I'm driving at with this, though. This is my big point is, it's not just about being kind to the assistant referees getting things wrong. It's actually a way of praising Cristiano Ronaldo because he walks the offside line, especially on that second goal, the important goal, the one that comes from the Ramos cross/pass. Because it's like razor thin and he plays those margins. That's what makes him kind of a great player, right? That's what great strikers are capable of, and sometimes you get away with it. Like, I'll guarantee Luis Suarez has also had some goals that are marginally offside, but like he got away with it in the moment because he ran it so tight.
Well, so then here's my question, though. I mean, you're right that is what a lot of great strikers have done, and you have to put yourself in a position to make that happen, certainly. But by the rules of the game, he's still offside.
Agreed.
So my question is, we've seen many, many people, or I at least have seen many, many people on Twitter discussing how this is yet another reason why we need the kind of like virtual referee or the assistant referee, the video replay, all that type of thing. Where do you come down on that, Daryl Grove? Do you want to start seeing that more often in games where you will see calls reversed or upheld based on video replay? Do you think that this game could be a case for why it's necessary, or do you think it is just two tight calls that went against one team?
I mean, it is 2 tight calls that went against one team, but I would be happy to get video review on things like Ronaldo's goal. Yeah, so we can get it right every time. I think we're not far from it happening, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely think. Like, even do you remember when? Also, we don't have video review for the whether the ball's over the line yet in the Champions League, do we? Because we have the assistant referees,
right?
But yeah, I'm thinking of when that has happened. It just removes all doubt, and it's still kind of dramatic. The thing I thought I would miss is the drama, but there's still a drama in there's still some drama in sort of waiting for the decision to come through. So yeah, I'd be kind of happy to see that.
All right. Well, speaking of things that make me happy, or make us happy, but I'm going to talk about me. So I did want to say, because I feel like I've been a little bit down on Real's overall performance.
Yeah.
And I want to say there's one guy on this Real team who, you and I have talked about this a bunch, how there's some players who I feel like are underappreciated for a very long time, and then suddenly things turn and people start to recognize them as being amazing, and then from there everyone sees them as incredible. Like the one that we've talked about before was Paul Scholes, how it seems like maybe some people didn't like properly rate him, and then Xavi gives this interview where he says Paul Scholes is like the best midfielder ever, and suddenly everybody says Paul Scholes is great. I feel like that's Marcelo for me. That I have never really, really like loved him, and the more I watch him, the more I think he is an amazing player.
Yes, 100% agree. And I think tonight or today, whatever we're calling this, was a prime example of Marcelo being the man. My question is, when did we realise this? Because I have a memory of Marcelo as the left back that was always out of position. You could always beat him. And suddenly it's slowly turned into like he's running the game from left back somehow.
Yeah, I think it was just when we started to recognize like how important he is offensively for Madrid.
Yeah.
That there were times in that first half where he was the one who's shooting or setting up shooting opportunities, but still doing a decent job of getting back and like kind of blocking off options for Bayern to create anything.
Yeah.
I think it's maybe in the past couple years that it's been more evident to me how good he is.
So to me, that matches up with in the one instance, it was Xavi saying, "Hey, everyone should watch Paul Scholes. He was my hero, and if you think I'm good, then watch him." Maybe the thing with Marcelo is that he was always good. It's just when we started paying more attention to soccer and watching entire games instead of just watching one goal and being like, "Hey, where was Marcelo?"
Yeah, I'm sure Madrid fans out there, high stake sandwich, are like banging their computers or phones or whatever device they're listening on in anger as we're like, yeah, he's pretty good. It's like, yeah, we've been saying that for 10 years, man.
What I'd like to know is, he been on a journey with Real Madrid fans? Real Madrid fans used to be like, oh no, he's a liability, and now he's sort of unbeatable.
I don't know, but I am fairly confident saying that I think he has been there for 10 years.
Yes,
he's been there for a while.
That, yeah.
He's a long-serving servant.
And do you get what I'm saying by running the game from left back?
Yeah,
because it really seems like that to me. It seems like he's dominating proceedings from from what should be sort of just a side position. It's really interesting.
Actually, one thing that helped crystallize that for me was, strangely, Louis van Gaal, who, when he was struggling the year he was fired, I think he talked about one of the reasons why they were struggling to get goals was because Luke Shaw was missing due to injury. And everybody was sort of like, what do you say? He's your left back. Like, if you're not scoring goals, it shouldn't be your left back's fault. But it made me kind of realize, like, oh, it is very important to have players who can kind of help transition and overload one side and help create opportunities.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe that insight into the way managers set their teams up helps me to better understand all of the things that Marcelo brings to the table for Madrid.
Well, if you just think of high-quality soccer, there's so much about pressing and maintaining the ball and all that sort of stuff. And the place you normally end up going is to your fullbacks, right?
Yep.
Because that's the place where you play out of pressure from the middle to the side. And if you've got someone who's top quality there, who can always make the right decision, maybe he can dribble past someone, maybe he can find an incredible pass back into midfield, or maybe he just clears it when you have to clear it instead of messing around with it. It could all hinge on your fullbacks.
Yeah, and I think it did for Madrid, and they delivered. Both Marcelo and Dani Carvajal, who, as you noted at halftime, was a big fan of the diving header.
He was, and then he did it again early in the second half. Good job, Dani Carvajal. And he was, I want to say, he was maybe Madrid's best player in the first leg. So Real Madrid's fullbacks really won this tie for them over 2 legs.
Mm-hmm. So too maybe did their grounds crew, he says conspiratorially, because there was Sprinkler Gate or Watergate Gate or whatever it was that George christened it, where there was the footage of them prior to the Napoli game where they were really watering down on one side of the field.
It was Irrigate Gate.
Irrigate Gate, there it is. Did you notice that in the first half, players consistently lost their footing in Madrid's defensive half and Bayern's attacking half?
Oh, no. The only one I remember is Ronaldo losing his footing and then making a big show of checking his cleats. It's not my fault, it's the cleats' fault.
Exactly.
But I'm sure his cleat sponsors were real happy about that.
Yeah, there was a few other ones in that first half that just made me wonder, I wonder if there's going to be photos of one side getting a whole bunch of water before this game started.
Oh, and then Bayern didn't score till the second half, right, when they switched ends. So maybe the grounds crew really made sure that first half was goalless.
That could be. They had some bets going, maybe.
All right, Taylor, so anything else to say on this game?
Just that, again, I think it's a really difficult game to sum up because I understand why Bayern fans and probably some neutrals are frustrated by the result. I think calls certainly did not go their way. But I think you also have to look at what Madrid did, how they executed the game plan that they were clearly trying to execute. And the substitutions Zidane made, I think, were very smart. And you can see that in that he took off Karim Benzema. He brings on, I think it was Asensio for Karim Benzema. Asensio scores and is heavily involved in helping Madrid get that victory.
I would say, to quote Russell Crowe in Gladiator, are you not entertained? There's no point being frustrated with this game, unless you're a Bayern fan. As a neutral, you may as well just enjoy the entertaining soccer that was on show.
And just to clarify, that would be Maximus Decimus Meridius. Thank you.
I wanted to say that. I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah.
I would think of him as Russell Crowe. That would have been a weird name.
Get your life together there.
Okay, so Real Madrid through to the semi-finals once again. Cristiano Ronaldo with a hat-trick and 100 Champions League goals. Joining them, Atletico Madrid. The other game finished 1-1, right? In Leicester. It's Leicester 1, Atletico 1. We did not watch this. I did see the Saul goal.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
It's a deep header.
I mean, it's a deep header, but it's not just that it's a deep header. It's that it comes off of a looping back of the post, like back post cross. And with that type of ball and the way he heads it and the distance he's at, it's really, really hard to turn a looping cross into a power header. But he does it. He hits that with me. He's been hitting the neck machine to make his neck stronger, I'm guessing.
Is there a neck machine?
Yeah, neck and lower back. That's what it takes to head properly. And yes, there is, because it was one of the only things I was good at when I was playing football.
Is it the one you sort of put on your shoulders and then crouch down and like stand up and crouch down and stand up?
As I recall, there's literally one that you like put your forehead on and lift forward, so it builds your neck muscles. Yeah, it's fun.
I'll stick to swimming.
Just the way he hits that ball, the power he gets behind it, as well as the placement, it's a really, really impressive goal. And it pretty effectively killed off that tie, because even though Leicester pulled one back and looked way better in the second half, there was still really, really an unlikely situation in terms of them getting 3 goals, which is what they would have needed.
Yeah. Well, Leicester City Champions League quarterfinalists, I think they would have taken that a few years back, right?
Yeah, I think somebody tweeted out that 2 years ago, they were just scoring a goal that seemed like it was going to keep them up, and now here they are. So yeah, not bad. And I think really, certainly credit to Atletico Madrid for, again, similar to Real Madrid, went in there, executed the game plan, and I think did actually do what you thought they might do, and I didn't, which is I think they, especially in the second half, definitely sat back a little bit more, absorbed pressure, and then tried to break when the situation was on.
Yeah.
But I think you also have to give credit to Craig Shakespeare, who made 2 halftime substitutions, which is a gutsy decision. I know you're chasing the game, and I know it'd be easy to say, like, no, you put people on, you got to get results. But you can do that and then concede 4 more really easily.
Yeah.
That Leicester came out and looked far more energetic and exciting in the second half. I think certainly their fans would be sad to see the run end. But by the same token, I think they went out fighting. And that's pretty much what you would have asked for if you were a Leicester fan. Champions
League run hasn't ended for us, the viewers, this week, Taylor, because tomorrow it is Monaco versus Borussia Dortmund. We previewed that game on our previous show, and it's also Barcelona-Juventus. Of course, we'll be watching Dortmund. We'll be hopefully watching Christian Pulisic, and we'll be back tomorrow with a review of that game. But we're not even done today, Taylor. First, we have a sponsor. Today's show is sponsored by Roughneck Scarves, makers of quality soccer scarves, the official scarf providers of US Soccer, Major League Soccer, the USL, and the NCAA.
You are correct, my friend. Also, the Total Soccer Show scarf.
Yeah.
If people are inclined to buy a scarf in the summer, because that's the best time to wear one.
If you want to wave it in the air, and they also make custom scarves. You can you can go to Roughneck Scarves and say, "Hey, I want to design a scarf. Can you guys make it for me?" And the answer will be yes. You can also get 20% off that order if you use our discount code Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase. And what we like to do is go to Twitter and sort of crowdsource a design for a scarf. And today's topic had to be Cristiano Ronaldo, didn't it, Taylor?
Yep, it did. So you asked on Twitter if you were going to design a Cristiano Ronaldo scarf or a scarf for Cristiano Ronaldo, what would be on it? We got lots of responses, many of which discussed a certain statue or a certain set of abdominal muscles.
Okay, so you sent some of the best to me. We're going to read them out. Shall I get started?
Sure.
Okay, so this is a Cristiano Ronaldo-themed scarf. Here are the design ideas. From Josh Hicks, his abs on one side and his creepy statue face on the other to scare all of the opponents.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of that statue, if you haven't seen the animated GIF of that statue singing the Champions League or like mouthing along the words of the Champions League, don't. It's horrifying. Don't do that.
No,
don't do it.
I'm not going to.
Don't do it. Let's just move on quickly to Hunter McGay. I'm going to say is how you pronounce that one. Abs and massive amounts of hair gel or hair products.
Does that mean that you would like the scarf would be sticky to the touch?
Yeah, I think so. Or it could just be lots of different products. Like maybe you just take a photo of what his bathroom looks like with all of the different products I assume exist there, and then you put that on a scarf.
All right, it's not all about abs and hair gel. John Adams said his Cristiano Ronaldo scarf would have all the trophies: 3 Premier Leagues, 1 La Liga, soon to be 2 Copa del Reys, 2 UEFA Champions Leagues, 4 Ballon d'Ors, and a group of golden boots, or maybe just the number 7 is greater than 10. He'd probably like that. I think that's a Leo Messi reference.
I believe it is. I think he definitely liked that. He would also like Ethan Moore's suggestion, I'm guessing, which was just 100 Champions League soccer balls.
That is on point for today. That's a really good Ronaldo scarf. Maybe Ronaldo on one side and 100 Champions League soccer balls on the other. One for every single one that hit the back of the net.
Yep.
Rail Salt Lucas, first of all, excellent Twitter name, says abs on one side with, quote, not fat Ronaldo on the other side. I'm not sure Cristiano would want to insult the original Ronaldo.
No, certainly not. Certainly not. Nick Stevens says the definition of the offside rule next to a picture of his placement for that second goal. Similarly, Bobby Grogan says an offside flag held down to the AR's side, obviously.
As in not raised?
Yeah.
That's funny. Ian Johnson says, one boot on either end and his head in the middle. I guess that means that's the hat-trick he scored, right?
Yeah, sure.
Two with his feet and one with his head today.
Mm-hmm. S. Kelly says CR7 would definitely be offside it, not on it.
That joke almost works.
Yep, I think so.
And Ricky House said, trophies, models, cars, cash, and an airport. You'd also have to design 20 to fit all of his records.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Matt.
Is that his vinyl collection?
I don't think so. And finally, Matt says, can Roughneck Scarves do some sort of mirror thread? That would thread made of mirror technology. Yeah. Because I'm certain Ronaldo doesn't leave home without checking himself out.
Oh, a mirror one is really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to ask Roughneck Scarves. I'm guessing the answer is no, but I don't want to be too definitive.
Hey, you never know.
They'll do anything with the custom scarves. If you ask for a mirror thread, you may receive it.
Mm-hmm. And if people maybe just wanted to do a standard scarf, what could they do, Daryl Grove, to get that scarf at a discounted rate?
I mean, I don't want to rule out the mirror thread, but you could go to roughneckscarves.com. The link will be in the show notes. You spell it RUFFNECK, scarves.com. You can use the coupon Total Soccer Show, all one word, all uppercase, for 20% off any order. That can be one scarf. That can be a big box of custom scarves made of Cristiano Ronaldo statues. Whatever it is you want to do.
So thank you to Roughneck Scarves for sponsoring today's show. Thank you to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 folks who sent in scouting reports for today's show.
And there is big news in the scouting reports today. Big news.
There is. Okay. So let's start with the biggest, I would say, from Juan Carlos Salas, scouting Mallory Pugh, the 18-year-old American forward for the U.S. women's national team, obviously. Yeah. Pugh is leaving UCLA to turn pro.
Apparently I saw this last night on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apparently the Washington Spirit would have first pick of Pugh, but sources say she prefers Portland. There's also interest from Lyon and PSG if the NWSL can't match what the French clubs are willing to offer. Meanwhile, Grant Wall is reporting that she has meetings with Nike and Adidas for sponsorship deals. Juan Carlos adds that he thinks the new CBA may have been influential in her decision to turn pro, but he also hopes that she goes to a club that needs her name recognition instead of, say, Portland.
How confident are we that Washington Spirit have her rights? Because someone tweeted and said that Portland Thorns have her rights.
I think that I don't think they do, and I am very confident because it sounds like from the last I read, Sunil Gulati is going to have to step in to negotiate some sort of deal because Washington are refusing to give up her rights. I don't think they have her rights. I think they have I think you have to enter through the draft. Maybe I'm not sure how it works exactly, but basically they have whatever they need to have to select Mallory Pugh, and so it will require some sort of arbitration to make it. If she doesn't want to play for them.
And the Nike and Adidas sponsorship deals, can I assume that she could not have had that while she was a college player? Or if she became a college player? Because I don't think she ever set foot on the field for UCLA in the end.
I think she did. I think she played a couple games because I remember she subbed on with somebody else. Maybe Ashley Sanchez. I don't know if she goes to UCLA. But she subbed on with somebody else, and it was like, well, that's not fair. So I think she maybe played like some spring games or something for UCLA.
I see, yes.
Then decided to turn pro.
All right. Okay. Next scouting report comes from Russell Varner. Russell is scouting Hugo Arellano, the 19-year-old American defender for Los Dos, a.k.a. LA Galaxy 2. Russell says Hugo started and played all 90 minutes of Los Dos' 2-1 loss. Los Dos' 2-1 loss to Seattle last Saturday, notching one headed clearance, winning 2 duels, and setting new season highs in touches and passing accuracy. Bit of personal best there for Arellano. It was his first game back since the call-up to the U20 training camp for the U20 World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Along a similar note, when it comes to U.S. youth camps, Michael Hartman emails scouting Josh Sargent, the 17-year-old American striker. Michael says, as expected, Sargent has been named to the U.S. team for the upcoming U17 World Cup qualifiers.
He better have been.
Yep. The U.S. kicks off against Jamaica this Sunday at 12:30. They're in a tough group with Jamaica, Mexico, and El Salvador. No word yet on where Josh will go after the residency program ends in May. He'll be a high school senior next year, and Sporting KC holds his homegrown rights, even though he lives in St. Louis.
Josh Sargent, I mean, people were really excited about this kid. I think they'll be even more excited after we see the qualifiers later this month.
And I think it was Will Parchman put out a possible, theoretical, likely U17 starting 11, and that front three of Andrew Carlton, Josh Sargent, and Ayo Akinyola, fairly intimidating.
And Scouting Network-tastic.
Yep, I like it.
Up next, Jacob Stolzenbach is scouting Felix Passlack, the 18-year-old German defender for Borussia Dortmund. He's sort of he's in the Christian Pulisic cohort of Dortmund youth players that made the first team, right? Jacob says, Passlack has been getting minutes every now and then for Dortmund, but there's a reason he isn't playing much. He's basically not defensive enough to play right back, but he's struggling to be offensive enough when playing in midfield. Sorry, offensive enough, not offensive enough.
Yeah.
Jacob says Passlack is, quote, like 90% of the way to being able to play successfully for BVB. There are rumours he will go on loan this summer, but Dortmund don't like to loan out their young talent, so who knows what's going to happen. I can confirm what Jacob says. I saw him play, I think he played right wing back against Bayern Munich, and it did not go well.
Yeah. So we shall see. We shall also see what happens with Josh Perez this summer, being scouted by Andrew Baird.
Yeah.
Perez being, not Andrew, the 19-year-old American forward for Fiorentina's academy. Andrew says, over the weekend, Fiorentina's Primavera side dominated Perugia 6-1, with Perez contributing a goal and an assist, sort of. Huh? I say sort of because Andrew gives Perez the assist for the penalty that he drew. Okay. Basically, the Perugia goalkeeper tried to play short. Perez intercepted the ball and was pulled down. Referee blew the whistle, gave a penalty. So Andrew is saying that penalty came from Perez making something happen, so he gets the credit for the assist.
Can I say I agree with Andrew on this? I think you should get an assist for winning a penalty kick. Like, Ian Robin should get an assist on Lewandowski's penalty today.
I think that's fair. Yeah. I think especially if you're not then going to take it.
Yeah. New rules.
Yeah, sure. Well, I think somebody has a copyright on that. But, recently introduced requirements. How about that? It remains unclear if Perez will get any Serie A minutes this season, a situation that is compounded by the looming U20 World Cup. Andrew writes, quote, I think the conventional wisdom in the U.S. soccer community is that he'll be included on at least the preliminary roster, provided Fiorentina release him for the tournament. But whether he makes the final roster is not nearly as certain, end quote. So basically that's will Ramos choose the best available players, which would be Perez, or stick with those that got him there. Much like with Felix Passlack, only time will tell.
I'm going to guess he goes with the best available players and tries to get Josh Perez.
That would make sense.
Yeah, it really would make sense. I think that would be the best thing to do if you want to try and have a proper go at the U20 World Cup.
I think he also kind of threw out this idea that maybe Pulisic wasn't off the table for the U20 World Cup.
Do you know, I was about to say that, and I can't remember if I dreamt that or if that was real. But yeah,
no, he said it was like in a passing interview he mentioned that like nobody's off the table. That includes Pulisic, but then he might have said, but who knows what's going to happen? He's definitely playing the World Cup.
Also, hasn't Josh Perez actually played a few minutes for Fiorentina's first team this season?
I'm not sure. Maybe if he gets any more Serie A minutes is what Andrew wrote or meant.
That sounds more like it.
But also, I'm not sure he did. I think he was on the bench for a couple, and he was definitely in the squad. But who knows? All right, but Josh Perez doing things in Europe for Fiorentina's academy. Yes.
All right, if you'd like to join the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network, you can go to totalsoccershow.com/subscribe. You will be supporting TSS and making sure that we continue to be able to bring you content like this, like almost immediately after the final whistle on Champions League days.
Yes. You'll also, and especially if we're doing it from home, you'll then be able to get the lovely helicopter in the background as well.
That was over my end earlier, because we're at 3 miles away, right? The helicopter came this way, yeah.
Nice. And to clarify, Mr. Grove, you are correct. So he has been an unused substitute 7 times. He has 1 appearance for 15 minutes so far this season in Serie A. Does Josh Perez?
Okay, I'm not saying I'm always right, but
But you're not? Is that what you're trying to say?
I think we should end the show here.
Yeah, why not?
Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We'll be back again tomorrow with our review of Monaco v Dortmund and maybe, depending on what happens, Barcelona versus Juventus. Until next time.